All right, everyone, welcome to This Week in Tyranny. Thanks so much for joining me on this episode about community resistance in Chicago. Community resistance. So, we're talking about citizen activism here. Before we get into that topic of this week, by the way, it's episode 153, November 8th, 2025. We're getting close to 3 years of this show now. I'm still here. So, citizen activism in this city of Chicago specifically, where I've lived in for 20 years now, over 20 years. I've been a citizen journalist, you could say, for 3 years, right? I don't call myself an activist, even though other people have called me an activist. I don't do the activist thing. Even though my goal is to change the world, like I'm not just talking, so I am an activist, right? But I've been called that, but I've pushed that label away. But before we get into that, I have to say this to everyone. I'm seriously not political. I don't care about this politics stuff in the sense that so people have thought I'm conservative in the past, like enough even to describe my show to somebody, like when they were introducing me. Oh yeah, he has a show too. He does, pro right wing stuff, pro freedom stuff, and in a good way, right? Because there are good aspects of the right wing, and I've aligned myself with those aspects before, and will continue to do so. Not just good aspects, but fundamental parts of life, like the value of children and family, the value of the family. But if you've listened to my show the past 2-3 weeks, you'd probably think I'm a radical leftist, right? Because of what I've been saying about immigration enforcement in my city. A while ago, actually, my friend's dad, we were talking, he heard just a little bit of what I said. I don't know how much he heard. But he said something like, oh yeah, because you're like beyond a socialist, saying that I'm more radical than a socialist in a good way, again, which shocked me a bit because obviously I can't stand socialism, right? But I understood what he meant. And there are good things about the left wing as well. And I dare even say there is a good thing about socialism as well that I agree with. And it's this. It goes often unspoken, right? You kind of say this is the quiet part that you're not supposed to say out loud. This is what is said in the meetings behind closed doors, in the circles. The thing that everybody knows about that ideology is that you're going to use any means necessary to achieve your goals. This is something that I agree with as far as the approach that you have to have as an activist, or more so even, it's like a coat of armor, which is the acknowledgement and the realization that what you're engaged with, it's not just a debate, it's not just a talk or a lecture, it's war. And it is a war that we're dealing with, just being a human being in the world that we have today. And I see it very clearly. And it's bipartisan, it's both wings, it's both political parties, it's both sides of religion and everything. The attack is against humanity, truly. Not just humanity, but nature as well, the planet that we live under. And it is a tyrannical control system. It seems like some people understand that, but of course the debate is, where is the tyranny coming from? Which side is controlling the system? But just on that thing I said about socialism, it doesn't mean that I'm willing to lie to you and change my principles, go against my principles. I don't go against my principles, but it does mean that I'm willing to die for it. I'm willing to go hungry for it. I'm willing to put my mission ahead of my immediate well-being. And that's not to say that it's only leftists or socialists that feel that way. That's just the life of a fighter. When you're a fighter, that's the approach that you take. So this week showed me how much fight there actually is, how many fighters there are in the city of Chicago. There are fighters here. Citizen activists, right, is the term that I'm going to use here. And I'm specifically referring to the response that we've seen from people opposing this federal immigration enforcement in the streets. But it's not just that they've come up this week, right? They've been around for a long time, these groups. It's just I've never run into them, or if I have run into them, in my head I've just identified them as progressive, socialist, super liberal groups that fight for super liberal things. Again, some of them I agree with them, and I definitely agree with the sentiment behind them. So this is again, I'm trying to make it very clear that I'm not a group thinker, right? If some group has a goal that they're trying to accomplish, and that is a goal that needs to be accomplished, I can work together with that person, agree to disagree on things, and still work together to achieve some kind of goal. Because that's the way you have to work together to achieve anything. Otherwise, nobody's going to achieve anything, because we're all individuals, we're all separate, and we should be able to all function together while having differences. And I don't want the differences between us to go away. I love a world of differences. I don't want to be around people who are the same as me. I don't want that world, you know? So these groups, I haven't run into them before, or I haven't really been an ally of them before, which I'll talk about, right? I'm going to talk about specific groups of people and show them to you, and we're going to see what's going on in the city. The thing is, I'm not very popular, and I'm not very active in the community, in any community, because I generally disagree with people, either in principle or in their method of action, or both, right? Usually both, unfortunately. But in general, I don't support people that are asking for government to do something, for government to give something to them, right? I support people who fight for government to stop doing things to them. That's the principle that I'm behind. So I'm not an activist in that way. That I'm fighting for this law to get passed and get this person into Congress, even though I would, I would support it in the sense that, sure, do those things. We need those things done. I always say that that in the world, we need to attack this tyranny system from all angles. So we need people that are fighting even in the laboratory, in the fast food drive-through line, in the department store section, on the assembly line. We need to put the truth out everywhere from people from all walks of life. But in general, I don't spend my time asking for government to do things for me. I want government to stop doing things to me and to people around me. But with the new information that has come to my attention this week, I think Chicago's community resistance deserves a second look, for me at least, right? So I want an acknowledgement of their impact, because there has been some impact. There are people really standing up against what it ends up being: federalization, militarization of police, and surveillance of the population in the urban cities. So I want this to be a bit of an unbiased investigation. What I would try to accomplish. Obviously, I'm not going to be fully unbiased, but I'm going to tell you when something's an opinion. So here we go. What happened this week? On Wednesday, I came across a live stream from a gathering of people in the north side of Chicago, and they were gathering in protest. It was a very serious gathering of people, and the reason is that same day immigration agents arrested a woman outside of a Chicago daycare. So I'm going to play the video for you and then read an article from Fox News to kind of show you what happened. First, I have to switch to that video. So here it is. ICE agents arrest a woman outside a Chicago daycare center. There's not much sound here, so... And I've said before, when it's women getting picked up, I treat that differently than men. I just do. Not that we don't have the same amount of rights, but the rhetoric was that they're going after real criminals, and everybody kind of agrees. If people are criminals, if people are general menaces to the community, then nobody's going to fight for their right to stay within a community. But I've seen a lot. This is what I was trying to prevent, is videos automatically playing. I don't like when they do that. I don't like that. But anyway. So This young woman apparently was from Colombia. Now we're going to read from this Fox News article, which is Fox News is an apologist for the Trump administration currently. They've always been a right-wing newspaper. These are the people that were telling you that there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, right? Do you remember this was 20 plus years ago? So I like to do this sometimes where we're going to read a source that I know I'm not going to believe. I don't intend to believe any mainstream source of information, including CNN or whatever. But we can at least get the major narrative and what the facts are as they're being presented. Authorities announced Wednesday that immigration's ICE officers did not target a Chicago daycare, but were pursuing an illegal immigrant who fled into the building after multiple reports claimed a viral video shows a teacher being dragged outside. So you see, this is already not the original story. This is a story about it. That it's not that they went into a school and started taking people out of the school. It's that they tried to stop this car, and the woman did not stop the car. She went out and then ran into the school. But she is a teacher that works there, so that is true. The Department of Homeland Security said that ICE officers arrested Colombian national Diana Patricia Santillana Galeano, previously released at the border under the Biden administration in 2023, after she fled into the vestibule of a building following an attempted traffic stop Wednesday morning. This doesn't change much to me, because if you're getting pulled over and you have not committed any crimes other than crossing the border, with the way things are going now, I mean, anytime you get pulled over, actually, not just in the current climate, anytime you're getting pulled over and you see those lights behind you, your life is somewhere in a zone of uncertainty. You may lose your life that day, depending on what the officers say, how that interaction goes. If you don't speak English well, there are all kinds of reasons, and we see people who have autism, people who are mentally ill, often they end up being somebody who's shot in an altercation with the police that turned out as just a traffic stop. So there are plenty of deaths that turned out as just a traffic stop. But so, they're going to defend this now, these actions, saying that it's not like they went into the school and all the children were crying and then they dragged the teacher out. But they did drag a teacher out, and I'm sure the children were crying inside. I'm not sure how that vestibule situation is. I suppose I could go there and do some on-site journalism for you, but this doesn't really change too much for me. At the end of the day, this is a young woman who's teaching Spanish to kids. So I don't see this as... And they're not even trying to claim she's some kind of a criminal. Like, what could she be doing? Even if she was selling cocaine, like what crimes could this woman be doing? She could be an abuser of some sort, and that would absolutely be horrific. But I don't think that's the case. I don't know if it's said here, but it has definitely been pointed out. How many childcare workers are Hispanic women? I mean, just what percentage of the workforce in Chicago is Hispanic men and women? It's a huge percentage. Huge percentage. Representative Mike Quigley said that she was a preschool teacher and legally authorized to work in the country. He said, ICE isn't going after the worst of the worst. This morning they took a preschool teacher without a warrant in front of children in my district. Now that is factual. That is facts right there, right? They did take her without a warrant in front of children. Now, the agency has responded to say work authorization does not confer any type of legal status to be in the U.S. The illegal aliens work authorization was approved by the Biden administration, which exploited this loophole to help facilitate the invasion of our country. This kind of a language. It has an aroma to it. It's very much like the militaristic patriarchal language, the neocon language that I remember in this 2005, 2006 era, which is when I came to this country. So, multiple DHS sources told Fox News that she was not targeted as a preschool teacher, but as an undocumented immigrant who had been caught and released at the border under Biden administration policies, June 26, 2023. So that's the thing. Now they're saying that she had a history of endangering minors. What does that mean for them? Does that mean she left them in the car, right? Did she do some of this stuff like we see parents doing, unfortunately? No, they cited that she told her children, ages 16 and 17, to cross the border unaccompanied last month. DHS said she may have facilitated human smuggling by allegedly hiring individuals to carry out the activity. This is the kind of shit that the government is saying. Basically, to get them in the country, that's the child endangerment that they're citing her for. They're painting this picture of her. And it looks like this is the woman, definitely looks like the woman in the video. So they're digging in. This administration, this government is putting their feet in the sand, and this is how they're going to paint people. Let's see. She said the car was being driven by a man who refused to comply even as officers activated sirens and emergency lights. The vehicle reportedly sped into a shopping plaza where the incident, captured on video, unfolded. Of course, right? Of course, these are just normal conditions, right? You could quote law and everything, but this is just, if your best chance is America, you're going to get your kids across the border one way or another. And if your best chance to feed your children is to be free working at that daycare, you're going to run from the police, and that guy driving her, he's going to do his best to help her get away. None of this is really crossing natural law, right? These crimes that these people are being cited for, like crossing a border is not a real crime. Let's be real here, and the fact that you're trying to get away when the police is trying to pull you over, this is still not a real crime. In the sense that I generally see the word crime as hurting somebody else, harming somebody, objective harm to another being, right? This is the natural law tradition that I come from. Now, we've got a bit of a taste of this story, I think, right? There's more in this article here. Well, here's one thing I do want to read. President Trump, so who is this? Department of Homeland Security is saying this, so the government. President Trump and Secretary Noem are restoring the rule of law in the U.S. and directing ICE to target criminal illegal aliens, DHS said. More than 70% of all ICE arrests are of aliens with pending charges and convictions in the U.S. Now, I'd expect this number to be 100. If you're talking about the worst of the worst, we're talking about, domestic violence history, thefts, assaults, batteries, this type of a thing, right? Like cartel members. This is the kind of a thing. So it should be that, and as a subgroup of that, 100% I would expect. But not only is this a government number, which of course I don't believe, I do believe that, when they are getting sent out, when they're hitting the streets, and you'll see some of these incidents, I'm going to play them. I'm sure they have a list of people that recently had charges and convictions, and they had people that recently were released under the Biden administration, like this woman, because I think the whole influx of immigrants that we had under the Biden administration, it was already planned that it was going to turn out this way. So that they get them in here, they set them up on the corners, they put them in front of Home Depot, they didn't give them an out, so that when this new administration comes in under Trump a second time, they already have a list of people to go after, and they already have a biometric surveillance system to test it here, to beta test it here, and implement it and use it. And we definitely have more reports of drones being used on the cities. Skydio is the company, and I heard this. I really should have included it as part of this show. But I will mention Ryan Christian again, who brought this to my attention. So Ryan Christian and Last American Vagabond is going to be getting multiple shout-outs this episode. I'm going to go away from this story now, if I can navigate out of that window, and just go back to community activism and these people. So this happened. There are ethical and moral debates that could be had, right, about law enforcement and all this. At the end of the day, neighbors are standing up for each other. We've got community organization, we've got grassroots mobilization, and we've got some real community activism going on. There are people who don't want military camo men with equipped with tear gas and paintball guns and riot control tactics, and they're already under pressure, under stress. They know how, they're going into a stressful situation where this is really the first instance that I see of a mass law enforcement operation where the identities of the law enforcers are concealed. So they're clearly scared of something. They're stressed out. They're told. I'm sure that they're told to conceal their identity and cover their face. You got to understand about police and military is that they're trained in fear. They're trained in fear in the sense that the threat to their life is emphasized. So a lot of police, when they hit the streets, they approach it like somebody's really going out to war that day, not to interact with the citizens. So this gathering of people on Damon and Lincoln demonstrated I saw some really interesting people, and these people deserve respect because I don't see them getting huge funding. They don't get the red carpet rolled out for them. These are people who are literally getting together, and they've got certain tactics like getting whistles, and they're spending their time following these federal immigration groups around with whistles, and they're informing people of their position. They're helping people who are here working, who are trying to feed their families, not people who are living off of welfare or all these things that people are accused of. They're just helping their neighbors. They're helping people that they know, that they hire to do their yard, their work. These are people that are their cleaning ladies, they're babysitters. They're helping these people, and really. In kind of a crazy time, in a crazy world, in a crazy city, I've seen people who are really impressive. And these are the kind of people that are going to connect you to resources. They're going to actually be helpful. They're going to actually connect you with somebody. These are the type of people that would feed you. They'll share their food with you, right? We're not talking about their political leanings now. We're talking about how they actually act as people with one another. They're the types that will help. They're focused on real world results, not just talking, right? These are the type of people that will give you the shirt off their back, right? If your car breaks down, maybe they don't know how to change a tire, but they'll help you. At least you won't be alone there in changing a tire, Maybe they'll give you a blanket. And I don't really mean to be funny. Definitely don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone. And I'm not going to play the conference itself, although that you could definitely find that. Those people are doing their thing. They know who they are. But I will point you to some organizations that are public, right? That were part of this. And one of these people I did see at the gathering on Wednesday evening. And it is from an organization called One Northside, okay? This is it. Organizing Neighborhoods for Equality. This is north side of Chicago. This area, Rogers Park, Edgewater, Uptown, Ravenswood. North Center, Lakeview, and Lincoln Park. 85% of my time at work I spent in these neighborhoods. This is not where I live, but this is where I'm at, So, actually, there's another organization that I neglected to put in here, which I saw. I was driving down Broadway. I was wondering what this line of people is. What are they standing in line for? And I see a food truck. And these are the organizations. I don't know how they do it, but there are a whole lot of people in the city that their thing that they're working on is food banks. They're trying to get food to people. They're doing it for free. They're doing it... to do something good for somebody, for the very basic, very, very basic, primordial act of care for someone, which is to feed them, to share a meal with them. That deserves a whole lot of respect. Now, as I've said before, I would have looked at this before, and I still look at it very skeptical when I see these even non-profit organizations operating in the city, because I know how prevalent Agenda 21 is here. And I know that at the end of the day, these companies, I mean, they're not companies, these organizations, they do get a lot of funding. And there are people, and what I mean by funding is not that they're getting money. Great that they're getting money. But they're getting paid by people who are trying to socially engineer this city. And this is just like donating to a political campaign. But instead of donating to a candidate, people can donate to an organization that engages in political activism, right, pressuring politics, and get things done from that direction, right? So that is I'm disclosing my bias, okay, here from both directions, okay? Just letting you know. But One North Side is a mixed-income, multi-ethnic, intergenerational organization that unites our diverse communities I've mentioned. So they're involved in making change. What kind of a change, right? Now the leader of this organization was speaking at this gathering. So I commend him for that. That this kind of a thing happens and it goes viral, but it's not really on. I don't think you know about this story of this teacher getting grabbed from in front of the daycare. So people are fighting for real people and things that if there was not, if it didn't go viral, if there wasn't a whole lot of support, these people aren't going to get any support from anybody. And I don't know who's feeding her two young boys if they still live with her, right? I'm assuming they are, because this is it seems like this is a woman that recently came to the country. So what situation are her boys in? I don't know. But definitely thanks to the people in these organizations, they know. They know her. The people that are, and really the people who aren't in this organization, the people that worked with her, some of the neighbors, they are the people. I know one woman for sure that I saw her speak is teaching at the same school. So this is the community staying together, which is really the way it's going to have to be to have a chance to deal with tyranny, whether it's coming from this administration or the next or the previous, right? Now they have all these resources for vulnerable community members. Know your rights, family emergency plan. See, I love this. They had different languages. This is the new activist generation. Not that it's just young people who are doing this, because they're not, but there's a wave of activists in these cities that they're not just going to sit down with a sign and yell at you. They're for getting real results. So they should definitely not be dismissed, and they should not be underestimated in the amount of change that they can accomplish. So we're going to take a look at some of that. Like, what are they engaged in? What kind of things do they do? What we do. Let's see that. I see the fist. Okay, I know the fist is a general gesture of power and resistance as well, but of course the fist has been a symbol of socialism. Socialism is a thing that, it's part of this conversation. So I noticed that right away. How they build power to fight injustice. They push together for laws, policy changes, other concrete actions. Okay, understood. I want to see this, our priority issue areas. I want to see what they're trying to get done, right? Like, where are they at? What is their worldview? Housing is a human right. Now, that gives me an idea. Okay, here we go. Housing justice. The rent is too damn high, they say. Everyone deserves a safe, affordable place to live. So housing justice, right? This is one of the things that before in the past I would dismiss a group like this, because where I stand with housing justice is that, yeah, everyone should, a human being needs to have a roof over their head. Like we absolutely need to. But there's a big gap between housing justice, like everyone deserves a place to live, and this developer and this landlord has to give you their place, where that building they built, they have to give you a unit in their building for free or for a set price, and they don't get to set the terms of who's going to live there and who chooses that. So there's a big gap between everyone deserves this, and we need to find a way to have this, and you're going to provide this for that person. Here are the terms. I disagree. I've always disagreed with that kind of an interaction because it's not voluntary. It's not a voluntary interaction. Very simple, right? So, housing, and building safe communities. Now they're talking about violence prevention here, and here, I think, I don't know so well, but from everything that I've researched, and I've researched this a bit before I put it to you, right? It's not the first time I'm going to this website, but I think these organizations are spectacular in what they can accomplish. Definitely more than the traditional way we think about, bringing down crime, putting the DARE commercials and children make a safe passage, these bumper stickers. This is not a bumper sticker organization. And this and another organization, they can actually claim some real results and crime numbers that they will, they'll provide. Like another organization, they'll actually say, there hasn't been a fatal shooting in Uptown this year, which I love that. I love that, and I believe that they can actually accomplish that, because how else do you do it? They know they're in these neighborhoods. They talk to these people. We all know why the gang violence is there. A lot of people don't understand why there's gang violence in Chicago, or why there are even shootings. When somebody kills someone when somebody brutalizes someone and then laughs about it, isn't it obvious what's going to happen? Revenge. Of course it's going to happen. That's why when we're seeing families go down in the street, isn't it obvious the response that is going to, kind of that powder keg that is going to erupt sooner or later? I mean, everybody knows it's easy to see. So when you want to prevent something from happening, everybody knows what's the way to do it. The neighbors are the ones who are going to actually go and do it. So it's good. They should boast those lower crime rates. Not the government. Definitely not the government, right? Environmental justice. Now, I'm not even going to read it. I need to pick up because I have a lot more to say. But, that they want to force environmental regulations on companies, which to some degree, like, Monsanto, Nestle, yeah, we need to force these companies not to poison the people, for sure. But a lot of this is fighting against the productive capabilities of America and the world in general, right? And this is environmental justice is very Agenda 21. So United Nations, forced migration, all of these things that are part of Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, and how they want to reorganize these urban cities. Tax millionaires fair is this guy with the sign. So when he says, a lot of these activists, the big enemy to them is the billionaires, the millionaires, the rich. Like, that's the elite, like the rich. And what gets caught up with that is you want to tax the rich, you want to give them harsher regulations, you want to make it harder for them to have a lot, right? So this is the classic socialist standpoint. I don't have the classical socialist standpoint. I have the classical standpoint of equality of opportunity, individual rights. So you get as much or as little as you get, and I want to do away with all of the obstacles, all of the crime, all of the corruption that is in the way of you getting towards the life that you work for, the life that you earn. So, and I'm all for supporting people by voluntary association. So I want to feed the homeless. I want to house them. I want to have all these public programs, but private public programs, right? Voluntarily, the people got to volunteer for this stuff. You can't force them to do something. That's very simple. And this is very simple to me. When this guy's saying tax millionaires fair, I guess he's saying that you want to lower the taxes on millionaires, because millionaires are not taxed fairly. No, they aren't. They're taxed way more than they should be. And you can just look at the tax brackets. If you make $47,000, you're gonna get taxed 22%. If you make $600,000, you're gonna get taxed 37%. That's half as much. So millionaires are taxed more than this. They're taxed very unfairly. They're taxed way more in the percentage. So if you want to tax millionaires fair, I guess you want to lower them to 10%. But that's of course not what this guy's saying when he's holding up the sign. Wrong page. When he's holding up the sign, tax millionaires fair. So it's really not fair. Or it's definitely not equal. Or maybe the word fair means according to our socialist ideology. You know. So this is crazy. This is crazy to me because the rich are taxed way more harsh than anybody else. Now you want to talk about the people that have the corporate tax loopholes and all that? Yes, they have those loopholes because of government, right? So they want to. So these groups, they want to close the tax loopholes, and basically what this is about, they want to raise the taxes on people and they want to lower the loopholes. Of course, it's not going to work because socialism is a scam. Long story short, but I said I was going to give them an objective look. There's another group here that I want to talk about, and it's Protect Rogers Park. Protect Rogers Park is specifically about, in this area, they are making sure that people who get picked up by these people in the streets, that people know who they are. They're warning people before they get there. They're making it very difficult for this federal immigration enforcement people to do their jobs. And that's what they do. They're protecting their community. Their logo is the monarch butterfly, which is very interesting because to some of us who know the implications of the monarch butterfly, right? But what is a butterfly? It's a beautiful, harmless creature. It's also a silent one. So, if you do something to a butterfly, who knows? No one really knows, right? They don't scream. But I think it's a good logo, and it's a great name for what they do. They're protecting their community. And you see not so many young people here, so it's not just young people doing this. These are the people who've been living in this community, and they're speaking up. I love it. Protect Rogers Park rally over here. I mean, this is the area I know, man. I'm driving through here all the time. They make these virtual ice watch and community defense training, and you see they got a lot of whistles because this is what they do. Anytime you see a video from Chicago, you're hearing a lot of whistles in the background. That's the people following these officials around and making sure that people know. Don't let yourself get caught. And I know that's got to drive them nuts. It's got to drive you nuts for a person that joined Border Patrol in Texas thinking you were, actually protecting this country, and then you get sent to Chicago to get whistles blown at you and people yelling at you and telling you shame. I know that's got to be real tough. If I was in that kind of a position, I know these are people at the end of the day behind those masks. I'm not inhuman, but you got to get yourself out of that situation, man. If not, then you deserve that whistle in your ear. And if you lose it one day and you hit one of these older ladies in the face because you can't take it, we're going to kill you. The people are going to kill you. That's what's going to happen. So at the end of the day, it's on you for getting yourself in that situation, man. So alerting the community. Very, very well done. What these people know, their rights, they know the risks. They know that they could be tear gassed, they could be thrown to the street. They know the cost that it comes with. They know what they're doing, and they're letting the world know. Okay, this is the end of silent oppressions and crusades and genocides. I mean, the time of these silent genocides and ethnic cleansings of great tyrannical actions is done. It's all on camera now. Ever since the way that the genocide in Gaza is on camera for the entire world to see, that's the way it'll be from now on. And thanks to these people who are out there every day, and they are making a difference. This is definitely changing a lot. This is changing these people. They got to be way more concerned about their identity now than even about their job. So it does affect. It changes everything. Because as soon as somebody's mask comes down, it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be here. It's going to be all over the place. And of course, it's not to do anything violent to that person. It's not to hurt that person that's in law enforcement, but it is to show their face and show who they are. Which, my face, I'm not afraid of it, even though I could be arrested at any time for the shit that I've said. But I'm not afraid of my face being out there because I don't engage in anything that I wouldn't want the world to know. That's the thing. If you see me in public, I don't have to cover myself up. I've done that before. I've wore a mask before to hide because I was engaging in things that are wrong. I don't have to do that no more. So, I speak up for the citizens now. And I don't mean just the citizens that have a citizenship. I mean just for the people, So, these are some of these resources that they'll connect you with. So first, there's the Red Dot app. The Red Dot app, I still haven't gotten on because I can't. Because here's this important notice at the top. Red Dot has been removed from the Apple App Store and Google Play Store due to false claim that the app harms law enforcement. This is objectively untrue. Red Dot functions... By the way, that is correct what they're stating. That app does not harm law enforcement. If a red dot put on your location leads to somebody doing something to you, they are the ones who have harmed you. Not an app that allows people to just share what they have seen with their own eyes. They're not putting a dot of where they are in your house. They're putting a dot of where you are in the street, where you're engaging in detainment, arrest, violence against people on the street, civilians, not engaging in any crime, no probable cause, other than them being brown looking. So this app remains down from both stores. However, for Android users, you can download the APK for side loading, which is why I'm getting an Android phone, which I've known that that Apple stopped allowing side loading of apps. I know this very well because I remember the rant that Mark Passio went on in 2020. So they control it more. They control the apps that you're allowed to have on your phone. So I can't just make an app and put it on an iPhone. It's only from there's a monopoly on that. Just like there's a monopoly in the big corporatocracy due to government, right? It's always government and control. But with Android, you have more freedom there, so you could sideload this application, so it still works. Red Dot is a safety tool, not an ICE tracking app. No, it is a safety tool, right? Just to let people know where they at. But, it's not us tracking people that's the problem. It's what they're doing. And that's a lot different than people who are tracking Elon Musk's plane. I've kind of talked about the dilemma there, right? When you're following somebody's location everywhere, is that right? Is that wrong? There's a conversation to be had there. These are people with guns, in military uniform, going at people working like every day in the city, not criminals. So, not the same thing, right? The other resource that I use a lot is iceout.org. Okay, and then they give you this map. Oh, there are more dots since I last clicked. And these dots clear after every 24 hours. So every day, you've got people who see things going on, arrests being made, right? Warning people where they are, what they're doing. So here you see in California. And you can click on this. They give you the address. Actually, they give you the option to download these videos. This is not a video, so there's no download thing, but you could save everything that's on there. You've got the date on there, the time, what's going on. And every day, I see a whole lot of this in Chicago. So let's zoom in on my city. You've got a whole lot of red things going on. Red, which is critical risk. So this is 26th Street in Cicero. Okay, this is what's going on. Let's go full screen. Full military gear. This is a paintball gun. You see the container on the top. That is a paintball gun holder. So there are people. I know they got real guns too, but they got paintball guns as well. So riot control tactics, you see their faces are all the way covered. It's ridiculous, and you got McDonald's in the background. When Alex Jones was talking about a police state 20 years ago, this was it, and he was showing riot control and full military gear, all black, blacked out black cars, black uniforms, this kind of stuff that he was showing, and it seemed far, far away back then, but that was after the Patriot Act already. This was always the plan, okay, for the American streets. This has nothing to do with immigration. This has to do with you accepting that this is in American streets. This is not in Iraq even, or Korea, or anywhere else. This is in your streets. If you accept this, this is what they were trying to. This is much more important than taking your guns away. If you accept this, we're just a step down from blatant hardcore tyranny. Not that they even need it. Not that they even need military troops in the country, because they won't. But this is part of it. It's a big part, and it needs to be a big line in the sand. So, this website's not perfect, but it is amazing. I love it, and this is a great example of community, of people just not putting up with this shit, and community help, enforcement, and organizing. This lets people know where they are. If you're in Clifton, New Jersey, you see this, and you move different. They shouldn't be hiding. If it's federal law enforcement, let it. Why are you gonna hide? Because this is very good just to see for your own research. Do your research. Some of these, hey, they may be arresting people who need to be off the streets, right? Sometimes you'll see something get flagged on here that's not ICE, right? So again, nothing's black and white about this, but that's a resource that you should be aware of, and nobody's putting that on the news. There's no propaganda for that. This is just people saying no and standing up. Now, as we are like an hour into the show, of course, I am going to briefly talk about Mamdani. Okay, of course, Zoran Mamdani won New York mayor. This is a big story. I didn't lead with it. I'm not even going to put it in the title, because people are such vultures to create content. They just can't wait to tell you about what they know. All these thumbnails I've seen about Mamdani and the reels, what the media won't tell you about them, right? What nobody else knows, they know, and I hate that. I hate that there's such a chorus and a unison that something happens and everybody makes the video about it now, and I have to be one of them. So I won't be one of them, but I will discuss what is happening here. So Mayor Mamdani, him being selected, there are two angles that I want to approach it from. One is the objective, kind of just want to analyze it at face value, right? Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. That's a law of physics, right? And after 10 years of senile presidents, people that you're seeing them, you can watch the State of the Union address and you're just like, I cannot believe this guy is the leader of the country. That's how I've been feeling, and that's beyond everything that I know about the political sphere and two-party illusion. I wouldn't have supported if my favorite rapper became the president. That's not what it's about. It's just detaching from all that and just looking what's there, what's representing America. I mean, even if the guy's got to be a fucking liar, it would be nice to have a guy that, at least you can look at and listen to for a bit and say that was well done, or at least that's true what he said. That's based on some facts. And at least represents the nation of America in a certain way. We've had 10 years of Trump and Biden, and they've been around forever, right? Trump has been around forever on TV. Before he was in the political sphere, you remember him from back in the day on Celebrity Apprentice and all these shows, the late night shows and everything. He was a celebrity long before he was a candidate. Now Biden, he's been in politics forever. Maybe he hasn't been on, a celebrity forever, but he was the youngest person to be elected into the Senate. So he's been in politics for so long, and these people have just been around forever. It's everything just to make you numbed out from the staleness and feel the disillusionment of it all. And here you've got a young person with some personality. It was always going to happen. This is nothing crazy. Some life, finally some life, and a lot of people are feeling this. You've got a radicalized opposite reaction to the radicalized actions of the second Trump presidency, because it has been radical, even if it maybe hasn't been radical in the results as much. It definitely has been radical in the rhetoric, which matters, because the president is a rhetoric merchant. He's not a results merchant. This is a guy that's got a, I mean, the only profession in the world where you do more rhetoric and fewer results, ratio-wise, has to be like a pastor. That's the only person I could think of, the only profession that I could think of where you get no results, but yet you're out there all the time speaking about all these big things and talking about big concepts. That's what the president is, especially in America. And absolutely, the second Trump presidency has been radical. It's not about how many people they're deporting or if Obama deported more. They've been caught lying publicly dozens of times. Just turn into Ryan Christian, Last American Vagabond. I would not be able to do the work that he does, because he is that consistent and that he really objective, and he has a commitment to journalistic integrity where he can actually sit through a lot of reviewing things that I can't sit through. It needs to be, people need to hear that, and you can refer to him as a reliable source of information. And that takes a commitment day in and day out to reporting on things in a certain way and giving certain people benefit of the doubt, and at least giving them the respect and the time to go through certain things when I already know the answer, and I could not do it emotionally, mentally. I would not be capable of doing it. So with these things like the Epstein scandal and being caught so many times, which Ryan has broke, I'm going to type in the website so you could, here it is, thelastamericanvagabond.com, so you could see, because I'm not even showing you the window, sorry about that. Here it is. When I got two windows up, my computer's a little slow. His website is not that slow, it's just me. So his most recent show, the war-focused peace president, here we go. DHS lies about deporting U.S. citizen. And he's on it all the time. The linchpin of the technocratic control grid, digital ID, totally on it. What Mamdani's election reveals about U.S. politics and more, arrested for recent terror plot, I believe that was. So there's a big shout out to Ryan Christian for sure, who has talked about this. So people voted for Mamdani because the country of America has been embarrassed on a global scale for a long time now. It's not just because they're not experts, right? It's not that Pete Hegseth hasn't been a 20-year general that makes him an embarrassment. It's just who he is. It's just what he says. It's just the way he says it. That's what makes him an embarrassment. Like, by their fruits you shall know them, right? I'm all for a guy that's never been a politician before to come in and to get the job. If he can do the job, do the job. It's like a coach that's never played football. If he can coach, let him do it, So that is what I wanted to say as my, at face value, election of Mamdani. It's like, before anything else, can we just acknowledge that this was always going to happen? Now, the other angle that I want to approach it from is that this was set up to happen, because it was. And I've talked about it, I think even last week, is that Trump was always set up to fail as well. He is the Iron Sheik. If you know wrestling, he's this super unlikable To most, he's a super unlikable, easy to hate guy. And he's done all the things that make him easy to hate. How do you make a great wrestling heel like the Iron Sheik? How do you make a guy super disliked? How do you make people throw things at him and boo him and give him the middle finger? I don't know, have him cheat to win, have him do a low blow, poke in the eye, dirty tactics. Or he could be entitled. He could get things handed to him that he didn't earn, right? There's a guy who's, he's got the management on his side, or he's got an inside guy. It's very basic human psychology. I love wrestling psychology because it's very basic human psychology, specifically in, it all plays on our sense of justice and the innate sense of justice that humanity has. We cheer for the good guy, for the underdog. And the underdog, there's always a guy trying to fuck him. There's always a guy who is crooked or he plays against the rules. And that guy has, he cheated his way and he needs to be brought to justice. He needs to get his comeuppance. And then Hulk Hogan comes around. And if you know how the story goes, is that the Hulk Hogan became such a superstar, Hulk Hogan, because there was this Iron Sheik character and he was the champion, and he came out and he was from Iran, right? And he always spoke out about America, right? This was in the ring. So then Hulk Hogan comes up with his entire American flag and, let me tell you something, brother. Yeah, that would have never come across. That would have never gotten across if the people weren't starving for such a character, for somebody to come out with the American flag and make them get up and have something to cheer for. That's Mamdani, man. And in a funny way, the people that young Americans want to cheer for is a guy that's not white. He's a Muslim. And that is the American thing today. And it's funny how that's happening. It actually just shows how destroyed this country has been, to the point that everything that is classically American, it has become so corrupted that is the revolting thing to young people today. And I know how it is, because this has happened to me, man. When I was a teenager growing up, you can't blame these people for growing up and being against the American flag and all this, because everywhere you go, you see all of the double standards, you see all of the corruption, you see all of the lies done by our government. And wait a minute, under one nation under liberty, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all, that Pledge of Allegiance every day. But then you go read about what happened to the Native Americans and all this stuff. And I know a lot of history is, has been made crooked and infiltrated by, could we say, cultural Marxism? Yeah, I know. But at the end of the day, these young people, they just grow up with a sense of justice and just what it means to be a child and a teenager. There's kind of like an innate sense of injustice that you get from having to listen to your parents. So you have that sense of the world could be a better way, or I could be treated a different way, but I can't. Even if your parent was perfect, there's still something there that says, I can't do anything that I wish I would be able to do. And something's wrong about that, right? That is what accounts for that famous rebellious teenage spirit. Now that rebellious teenage spirit, we feel it for a reason. This is a correct part of our development. It should be implemented and extrapolated into the world to change the world, to actually change the world. So when you become an adult, you shouldn't go vote for your parents again, for the next parent class. You should go become that adult that now you have your own place and you can go out on your own. And you can say, I know how to do better. Here's how to do it, and do better than your parents. You come back and you tell your parents, hey, this way you did it, this is the way you should have done it. And if you do it, you know what your parents will do, that's when you become a parent. This is kind of like the thing that is your rite of passage as an adult to prepare you to have children, is that you know that you want to do better than your parents and you want to provide a better life for your children. So you get together with another adult and you create something that was not there in the world before, that was not possible before. You actually bring a whole life into the world, and you don't give a middle finger to your parents. You actually go become them. You become your parents and try to do the best you can, in a sense of respect and love, not just for your future children, but for your parents as well, to give them grandchildren. That's my fucking worldview. It's pretty optimistic, you know, but I'm not a socialist, because I don't see that. I don't see you guys. I don't see the Mamdani's supporters, voters, with that kind of worldview applied everywhere. But the whole reason I made this episode is because it's kind of like I have to speak up for this younger generation a little bit, because they do feel that spirit, that rebellious spirit. It may be misguided. It may be hijacked to go vote and do all these things. They may not be taking the real steps necessary, but they're taking some of those necessary steps, like community organizing, right? So this is not me closing the door on anyone. This is me opening the door for anyone. But the play, when it comes to there's a play here with Mamdani and why he was brought around at this time. Because if he was brought to be the mayor in 2008 when Obama was around, or maybe even no, not earlier, but 2008 when Obama was around, he would not stand out. You wouldn't have a Mamdani phenomenon, because nobody can shine with Obama, you know, because he just didn't have, Obama just had too much charisma for him, man. So nobody would go for it now. But people will go for Mamdani today, I think, because he is the younger Bernie Sanders. He is just like Bernie Sanders, super idealistic, popular with the young people, right? He makes for good content, good memes. He can actually make the memes. I've seen some of his political ads, and it's like, that's the thing. Like, you don't have to have so much personality. The bar is very low to stand out as a politician. It's remarkable that it doesn't happen earlier. You know, this is why a guy like Charlie Kirk ended up having such a big following, because it really doesn't take a lot to stand out in as far as uniqueness goes. So this guy Mamdani, you know, all you gotta do is raise your voice, and people are like, "Whoa, this guy's actually alive." And they just do. What does it take seriously to give a good political ad? Hey there, you've seen this stuff. You know, it'll sound corny, because like, what can you say politically when you know you're lying to people? But I think we've heard enough. We've heard what they had to say, and it's about time that somebody will say something better. And we need all your help to create a system that doesn't just speak for themselves. They speak for themselves and for you. And then they'll do these zooming things, you know, and then it's easy then they have them like from this angle. And it's like like a basketball mixtape. You know, it's easy to make somebody look good. Angles can do a lot, you know. Angles, lights, gimmicks. You can gimmick somebody up. But as you can see, man, I'm not that good at being gimmicked up. And that's why you're not going to see me doing any of these thumbnails. And maybe I'm just never going to be a popular channel and a popular show, and that's fine. But no gimmicks with This Week in Tyranny. But Mamdani, you just have to you have to say, he's a pretty good young Bernie Sanders, except he's Muslim. That's the only thing that is different. And the element of Islam is definitely present here. Like, it has a place in the conversation somewhere in this discussion about liberalism, socialism, and Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. But I don't want to talk about it yet, although I have things to say about that. But I will say this, that resistance against tyranny has gotten way more difficult in 2025, like this, because a conversation that should be about individual rights versus powerful groups, which is what I'm trying to do, it turns into a history lesson, a history conversation about the Judeo-Christian West versus the Islamic East, and that should have never been the conversation. So you're seeing there's going to be a bit of a duality of symbols with Nick Fuentes as well, who's not a politician, but he is a influencer, podcaster, kind of doing what I'm doing, but, you know, politically. And then you got Mamdani on the other side. You're going to, I even seen the thumbnail today. Somebody already did it. They're already going to talk about it, which is good, you know, fine. But I have to say that the Islamic threat to the West is greatly overblown. Yeah, I know the books themselves are inherently imperialist. If you take fundamentalist religion, I get it. I get the history of conquest, but you could open up the books themselves and say the same thing. If you open up the Old Testament and the Talmud, literally, you could make Christians and Jews seem like brutal, savage conquerors for sure. You know, there's a big difference between what is said in the fundamentalist text and what the person, the median representative of that religion is doing. You know, with one of those religions I mentioned, you know, one of them actually has an extremist cult that practices ethnic cleansing. You may know it as the State of Israel, right? But anyway, what is the play here? Why is Mamdani being rolled out now when he is? And the answer is to bring the entire young generation into the game politically. That's the goal of what they want to do. These kids, they're hungry for a respectable outlet for their values, for their emotions. They've been numbed out by the internet and social media, but they're not all spoiled and entitled like people say about them. Generation Alpha or Z. They aren't just dumb and coddled. This is the kind of shit that ignorant adults say about children. I was like, oh, they're just bad kids. Like, no, how did they get to be the way they are? They're coming out of the environment that we created for them, right? But anyway, this young generation growing up, which is voting for this guy Mamdani, they want a world with purpose. They're trying to find it somewhere. They want to go out there and actually debate and actually vote. They don't want to burn down the world, because most people aren't extremists. Most people aren't, you know, they don't want violence. They actually want a candidate to vote for. They want this to happen this way, and it's not going to happen that way through politics. But there's been a decade of disillusionment politically, and this represents, this guy Zoran Mamdani is going to represent bringing the youth into the fold. They did it with Bernie Sanders partially, and they're going to do it again. Now, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, you know. But the play is they're going to bring a politician in that could talk all day. He's one of these guys like a car salesman. He could just smile at you all day and just make you feel nice about being there. You know, he makes me feel good about being. He doesn't make you feel uneasy about going to the rally or say tough things that make you think about what you're doing. It's, hey, come on in. You know, you want to be part of a real party? We're going to show you how it's done. You know, like that. You know, like a hype video. He's a hype man. And I know very little about him. This is just what I see, right? This will be my analysis. That's a bit more subjective, right? These are the type of people that can make you envision a result, but they not necessarily take you to that result. As you're actually going away from the result, you can at least picture and have it in front of you as an image. Like preachers. This is how you leave the dealership with a car that sucks, like the car salesman. This is how people put money into the pockets of the gurus and the get-rich-quick schemes and the collection boxes at all of the, you know, sensationalist churches and the Joel Osteens. And that's what they do. It's guys like that, you know. And if the people take to him, this guy's going to be the next president of the United States. If the people take to him. If not, there's always an alternative option. That's why this is a play. Zoran Mamdani is a play in the playbook. He's not the entire playbook. The playbook it's not the only play. It's not the play that you're running. There's always a backup play, and that's why you control both parties. That's why they got both parties. So if this guy Mamdani completely fails and bombs, if the people aren't ready for somebody who's a Muslim, or they just don't like him, or he says something dumb one day, it doesn't mean that none of this applies that has been the setup, right? The long-term planning. Because at the end of the day, it's the people that write the narrative of history by what they agree to go along with and by what they say no to. That's history. So that's all I'll say about Mayor Mamdani. Now, I'd like to finish this episode talking about ethics. Surprisingly, ethics. Because I come from the natural law tradition. I talk about objective morality. I talk about morality, not ethics. although it's the same thing. But morality does not go across that well with these people that have been the subject of my show today, right? The community activists, the citizen activists, the young socialists. They don't like the word morality because of the religious context. And just people in general, maybe it's unfair to call them socialists. Like young people in general, I think that a large part of these people, they don't like the word morality because of the religious context, or connotation, not context even. It's just this idea, this implication that you're being bound to an old system, and also the idea of judgment, that you're being judged if you don't do something, right? So these young people, they correctly see all the bad results of all the old systems. That's what all children are very good at. They're very good at looking at things and seeing what's wrong. They want to change it, right? And a lot of them, they care about right and wrong. Even the young socialists, they care about right and wrong. And it's called ethics. If you ask conservatives now if they care about right and wrong, they will, of course, will say yes. Because they do. Except they're more likely to call it morality. So you've got two different groups calling it two different things. They both care about right and wrong. They do. So if that's the case, and both morality and ethics are the same practice, how is the world so fucked up, right? Morality and ethics are both moral philosophy. It's the study of right and wrong. It should be very simple and easy. But why is the world in the state that it is? It's because it's thanks to one of the best plays in the grand playbook of tyranny. And that is, you get people to debate abstractions as opposed to reality. You need people debating about abstract things, when in reality, basic right and wrong is very simple. It's very simple in the way that you have the right to live, you have the right to your body, you have the right to not be assaulted, you have the right to not be invaded in your home, right? But there you have the issue, right? The word invade, right? And you're getting into the abstract. So one person sees the woman, the teacher, being arrested, handcuffed on the street, thrown onto a car, and says that that's an invasion. She's being invaded, right? That's an invasion of her rights. Another person looks at the same thing, and they honestly say they still care about, but they both think that an invasion is wrong. But they say that the invasion was when she invaded into the country by crossing the border. And that is how you can twist right and wrong based on whether you're dealing with reality or abstraction, right? It could be based on assumptions. If it's based on all kinds of assumptions, implications, then you're not going to get the right result, and then it's not objective anymore, and that's how you get mistakes in moral philosophy. So the first person, the one who sees that, hey, that guy in the military outfit is invading her rights, that person is dealing with boots on the ground reality. The second person is dealing with abstract concepts, the concept of a nation and its borders and the enforcement of laws created by man. Okay? People say, I know the argument, people say if you don't have borders, then you don't have a country. The right for a country to exist, the right for a country to have borders. And while I don't agree with states and governments in general, I don't agree with a state having a right to territory, but I won't be a stickler about that because I do agree with it generally. Like, I agree with this concept that you need to be able to have boundaries and to set your terms for how things are going to be done here. Rights are tied very closely with the concept of boundaries. The door on your home, crucial. Your skin is a border, and that's part of it. It is an absolute border where, in many cases, that's the border that determines whether something is right or wrong. If it's being done, is it touching this? Because if it is, that's crossing the line, that's crossing a border, and now it's become something else. Of course, that's not so simplistic, because you have, like, personal space. It isn't just skin, right? And that is something that I definitely agree with as well, is the right to personal space. So, but at the end of the day, am I saying that an ethical nation cannot ethically stop an invasion of their nation? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you have to let the Trojan horse get past the gates and get into place. And until somebody does something, you can't do anything to stop them. Then I'm not saying that. I'm being like very realistic here about the reality of an invasion, even a cultural one. But I have a couple things to say about this. One is very simple. Stop them at the border then. Just stop them at the border. Regardless of all these, what's ultimately ethically correct. Like, protect your damn border then. Go worry about the fucking border. Because all of you anti-immigration people got played. You got big time played. The talk was about the border. There was a whole wall thing that you were going to stop the invasion, right? But because now the focus is no longer on who's coming in or out. Nobody's even talking about who's coming in or out. We're seeing a lot of people in a couple cities, and everybody's eyes are off the border. Who actually knows what's going on? And the focus is now on domestic surveillance and urban control of the urban population, because their presence is so it's not only these certain people that are under control, it's everybody's under control. It's that the enforcement is in a particular direction for now. So ultimately, this is a prison for you guys that wanted to got played for all of the stuff going on at the border, because the attention is not at the border. The attention is on people who have already crossed and already have a life here. So ethically speaking, go ahead and secure your border. You got that right. But once people have established themselves somewhere, and they have homes, and they have families, and they have a work life, they're working somewhere, they're part of an infrastructure, you don't have a right to go touch them off the street unless they actually did something to someone in reality, which is again what we were told, is that these guys are committing crimes here in this country. We're not just going to go after the mom and pop, the worker, the landscaping worker, and we're going to go after the people that are coming here, abusing the system and committing crimes. That would have been different if somebody actually committed a crime. Where you're touching people, and you can see some of these videos. Actually, let me just go to it real quick. Maybe we could find some. I should be able to find some, right? This is another cool thing about iceout.gov, is that you can, if you don't care about the location, you can just click the button. Right now I'm getting no image preview, so I'm going to refresh to get them. Okay, you've got a close-up of one of these people. Nice Oakley sunglasses. I wanted to just kind of click through some of these pictures so you could see who's been getting picked up today. Because like I saw a lot of people that are wearing orange vests, like landscaping. Like people that were, it's Saturday, dude. These are people that were mowing the grass today, And actually, let me not just go through them, because I'm getting a lot from Portland, from Oregon and California. But I was seeing things from my area, which is usually where I look. Oh, this is rough. I'm not getting any dots. Could it be true? Did they leave the city? No. So this is the thing. It would be a lot better to have an app, right? Have this app that was, I believe, more responsive and more interactive. And here is a website. If you have a website like I do, you know how hard it is to make a fucking fast website that responds to you. As you can see, it's very difficult. So I guess I won't be able to show you examples of the people that are getting picked up by immigration. The point that I was trying to make is that there are people that are working, and this is an attack on the American economy, the American infrastructure. Seriously, So, as far as the immigrant invasion, I think in Europe it's a bit of a different conversation, because in Europe you do have these encampments and a lot of reports of women being raped by some of these people that are being brought from these other nations. Most of them are Muslim nations. Now the reason I would again say it's not so black and white, and it's not just the Islam thing is a bit of a hoax, because I've done some investigating into India, and how much in rape there is in the Indian culture, which is mainly Hindu. So Hinduism as well as Islam. There's actually a Hindu Islam. It's a very hot debate. Like it's downright war over there in certain areas. So it's not so much the religion of Islam. I would just say it's the old world. The old world, Asia, Middle East, Africa. Yes, I'm not saying everybody there is bad. Absolutely not. I'm saying that this is why I defend freedom so goddamn much, because there has been violence against women for most of human history, as far as I know, and that's not to say that there weren't a lot of families, and even as a peasant and life in all these countries where women were respected. But in general, you have to say that one of the most beautiful things about modern culture is the way that women have actually had equal treatment societally. That's very unfortunate what has happened with male and female relations in the last few years. But the way I see it, dude, honestly, is that all of the craziness, all of the social engineering, the transgender ideology as well, the change in style and prevalence and intensity of pornography, all of this stuff, feminism, third wave feminism, I see all of these as crimes, and it's part of an assault on the family by the same kind of social engineering class of rulers that comes from the old world. They want the old world back. They want that back. See? They're destroying the kind of a thing that brought women out, and a woman has all the equal protections under the law, and you can't just have her anytime just because you're married to her, and there's a communication there, and there's even deeper connection that is able to be made, still leading towards a traditional close family. But anyway, that's a big tangent that I got on, just because I was talking about the border invasion, and when the European Union, I see the immigration crisis. It's way different than the immigration situation here in America, because the border invasion of the United States, to me, has always been abstraction and not reality. You don't have Sharia Muslim gangs here. You never have. And really, the real crime has been the government's control over business and the redistribution of wealth. Because the only problem has been that people come here and they're getting taxpayers money of taxpayers that they didn't own. It shouldn't be redistributed. I think we could have handled all these immigrants, and people would have handled some amount of that immigration. We could handle welfare, homelessness, and all that. It should be voluntarily funded. Get rid of the taxes. And whoever wants to, people can put their money where they want to put their money. That would be the ethical thing to do. Here's where the socialists, who see right and wrong properly when it comes to immigration enforcements, they're all the way wrong when it comes to regulation of the economy, because they want to regulate the economy. They want to tax the rich fairly, tax the millionaires fairly, right? Are the big corporations making it impossible to earn a living today? Absolutely. This is real. What they're seeing is real. Like kids, they're seeing that something's fucked up in the house. They don't know how to take care of the house by themselves yet. They haven't grown up. Socialism, it should be an ideological phase, like a teenage phase. And it's a scam. It's a scam, just like I was scammed into thinking that I could be a drug dealer myself, and that was going to be the way I could become like a strong male figure that I could be proud of, but still kind of still engage the world on my terms, right? I never wanted to be a good little puppy. I didn't want to follow all these rules, all these conventions. Okay, so that was the scam that I fell into as a teenager and in my early 20s. These people, they fall for it, and they fall for the socialist scam, where these big corporations that we all want to do away with, what has made it possible is government controls. In other words, socialism. Government regulation. That's the only way these big corporations could have killed the competition. That's what creates monopolies. That's what kills competition, is you're tilting the table in their favor. And that's what the governments have done. The solutions are very simple. These are age-old problems, very simple solutions. Very, very real, not abstract ones. Now, does that mean that something long-term, that has a long-term cascading effect, domino effect, cause and effect, is something abstract? No, it's not abstract. It's very real. It's very concrete. If we pass a law today that says you cannot pay somebody less than 20 an hour, or you cannot raise their rent over $1,200 a month, that has a very observed cause and effect relationship. It's going to lead to shortage. It's going to lead to suffering. That's not an abstraction. That is a noted, linked causal relationship between those things. That's economics under socialism, and that'll happen in New York and other places if people agree to it. Is what's going to happen. That's the scam of socialism. It actually is all about abstractions. It's like all these things, that all these government controls on the economy, what ends up happening very quickly is the economy stops working, which just means the circulation of resources stops working. You're going to get hard times, you're going to get shortages, you're going to get collapses, you're going to get all kinds of interruptions. And then people are going to go to the politician, the guy that told them to do it, and say, what's going on? And they're going to tell the people, just wait. It always takes some harsh times in the beginning. There's always going to be some growing pains. You have to hang in there, and we have to be steadfast, and we have to persist, and we all have to stick together, and then we will have a result together. At the end of the day, our great ideal will be realized in the future. That's the story of every scammer. That's what they tell you. You're seeing the negatives, the red in your bank account. They're going to tell you it's going to come back. It'll shoot back up. Watch. You can't back out now. We need your faith. We need your loyalty now. Just wait. We'll all be over the mountain soon. It's always the same. So very simple solutions. Complete free market, unregulated, is the ethical economic system. Voluntarism is the ethical political system, meaning the only things that are against the law are actions that were actually done to someone against their will, right? Hence voluntary. Free association is the ethical social cultural system. That's the only ethical social cultural system. Still means you could be Christian. It still means they could be Muslim. Muslim women could wear their burqa, and they can freely associate to be in these areas. And the world is big enough for all of us, man. There's enough food for all of us, enough clean water for all of us, enough housing for all of us. Except housing doesn't grow on trees. It's built by people who cut the trees down and make 2x4s out of the trees and make drywall and patch the drywall and all this stuff. And then you have housing. You have to go obtain that. With free association, with voluntary action, and with complete free market. That's the ethical way to get things. And the women, they could wear whatever their head coverings they want, man. Women could wear whatever they want. Wear or not wear anything that they want. And if any church or school or restaurant doesn't like what somebody's wearing, they don't have to serve them. They could ask them to leave. There are no discrimination laws against them. They could ask them to leave. That's the ethical thing to do for everyone involved. Can they handcuff that person and slam them against the wall and arrest them and take them somewhere else? No, they can't. Nobody would have the right to do that in an ethical society. But they can remove them. Even forcibly remove them. You can remove someone from your property. But there's a difference. There's a big difference between owning a business and owning an entire country. No one can own an entire country. It's a scam. It's a scam owning an entire country. The public ownership is a scam. The same scam that forces the owner of that restaurant to pay a property tax on what's supposed to be his. It's supposed to be his, so who is he paying the tax to? It's like saying you can own something and everything in there is your property, but inside of that, like the Russian dolls, you got somebody that also owns something. and that's his property too. And the big egg says, hey, that's twice as much mine. That's basically what they're saying, and that's the hierarchy, right? This is a scam. But the real scam is that in that restaurant, with that scenario of the immigrant in the restaurant, right? Because that's a connection I'm making. The real crime is that the government is. They're not removing any unwanted people from the restaurant. They're serving the food from our table. They're serving the food from our table at that restaurant. So you want to talk about the immigration problem? The only problem is that there's no real freedom in this country. Because if there was, then everybody can make their own living, and they can make it the best way that they can. And we weren't in this collective pool where what I do with my money connects with what you do with your money and all this. I hate this tethering to this mass of uneducated excuses for humanity, excuses for people, excuses for real men. And let me get misanthropic towards the end of the show, right? This is an optimistic ending to the show. We're talking about all the freedom that is available to us, and the scam of government that there's an easy, simple solution to all these problems. We don't need them. Also, I want to stress that these people, real people that are getting arrested in Chicago, you're seeing that they're all getting picked up from work. Are these people the criminals? When do they have the time to commit all their heinous crimes? Because these people are picking them up off of the lawns, man. They're pulling them down from the ladders. Absolutely hideous. This is an attack on the American economy. And do you guys really think these are the people taking away jobs from Americans? Think about it. Whose job is that landscaper taking? Who's going to replace the Mexican landscapers and painters? Who's going to replace the cleaning ladies and nannies? Is there a pool of unemployed people who are become landscapers and painters now? I don't think so. I think you're going to get a shortage of labor, and it's going to cost way more to get the American landscaping and painting companies. That's what it's going to be. And we'll, we do live in an interconnected economy, so it's going to start hitting different industries very quickly soon. And you're going to have to pay bigger and bigger corporations to do the work too. That's another thing you're going to get when you remove the immigrants. You're going to have fewer independent laborers. You're going to have more organized labor with organized unions, and they like that. People don't understand that the big corporations, they love the unions. They love the unions because they'll give up a little bit, because they can afford to give up a little bit, because they're already getting the government subsidies. Who cannot give away a little bit are their competitors, the more independent ones, and the union will drown them and put them out of business. Where Target and Amazon and McDonald's, they're going to be just fine. They'll unionize for you. They'll even help you. So, attacks on the American economy. We have a shortage of jobs, not because we got a lot of immigrant laborers. We've got a shortage of jobs because we have a shortage of productive employers. We have a shortage of productive employers, people who create jobs. We have a shortage of people who can create these jobs for everybody and make everything cheaper for all of us. Why do we have a shortage of productive employers? Because of government regulation eliminating our ability to compete economically with the big corporations. Taxes, defense spending, these are the reasons we can't compete with the big corporations. And that's why we have a shortage of jobs. And that's why you think that somebody's taking your jobs. It's not AI. It's the same old government. So that's reality for you. It's scams on top of scams. This Week in Tyranny is not a scam. Not just because I don't advertise, but because I don't blow smoke up your ass. And if I come on here and I don't really feel like talking about something, I tell you, I don't force it. This has been a good episode. It feels a little bit strange. It's only 3:30 on Saturday. I'm going to go return some more things. I did like an Amazon return with like 7 things. I was like, oh my God, I hate the way that I seem right now. I'm just like, this guy, I need a backpack for my returns. Like, this is so new millennium, this is so new millennium entitled, like, it's like so lazy that we order all these things, we don't get them at the store. But then I thought of it, and I thought, is there anything really wrong with that? Like, this is the thing. Things that you know what you want. Like, I needed to replace a toilet flush handle. I know which one that I needed. I would have had to waste my time to go to a store to try to find that one, call people and look for something that is very simple. And is it not a great thing that I could go on Amazon and find the piece, I know exactly what I'm getting, and then there is a company that's, that they make enough money that if they send me the wrong shit, I won't have to be on the phone with somebody for 5 hours. I just fill out their little return form. It works really well. It works so damn well that actually, when I was returning and I had a line of people behind me, I had the time to actually do my return request at, like, there while I'm standing there with the guy, because I forgot one, because I had 7 of them, and I show him the QR code, he scans it, and I return the thing that I needed to return. Is that not a great thing? So it all comes full circle, right? There are great things about both polarities of lifestyle, both wings of politics, both worlds, the old world and the new world, both natural things and man-made things. And I think some man-made things are awesome, and I love that we can do that and interact with nature that way, and even make a freaking big company that can send us a bunch of items that I would have had to spend so much time at a store to find, and pay a middleman, a store. What was so nostalgic about department stores that that Amazon replaced, that we have to, like, I'm not gonna shed any tears for Marshalls or Sears or Burlington Coat Factory, but there is a nostalgia for a free America. There is a nostalgia for that, and sometimes we will associate that with certain things. Some people associate that with a guy like Reagan, or a guy like Nixon, even, or just when there weren't so many different nationalities and you didn't have so much merging. So I can forgive even the people who are totally off, and even behind the masks and behind the paintball guns and the tear gas canisters, I know they're humans too. The people that voted for Trump and continue to support him are humans too. The things that motivated your actions were based in reality. But it's very easy to go into abstractions and not stay grounded in reality. So that's all from me. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.